Good evening, brothers and sisters in the Lord. So glad to be with you as we are pushing our initiative through the Missionary Baptist State Convention to get our churches and those registered voters in our churches to vote. First of all, we want to thank God for an opportunity that we can make a difference and definitely be a blessing to others. So remember our motto: we can make the difference. We can make the difference if we get out and vote. So our initiative, our drive, our push is going to be to get every one of our registered voter in all of our churches through the Missionary Baptist State Convention to make sure that they are going to vote. November the 8th is election day. November the 8th is the election day. And we want to make sure that we have a drive, we have a push to do all that we can to vote. I know in a number of our churches, you already have individuals that are working to make sure souls to the polls, rides to the polls, whatever we need to do to make sure that we have an opportunity to vote. So first of all, I'd like to thank our chieftain of the Missionary Baptist State Convention, and that's the Reverend Dr. Lyndon Bowie, who saw the vision and said we need to make sure our purpose, our drive is to get all our members of all our churches in the Missionary Baptist State Convention the opportunity to make sure that they vote. So I want to first thank him. And secondly, I want to thank Pastor Dr. Darrell Gray, who has allowed me to work under the social justice ministry of the Missionary Baptist State Convention as well. We're going to be putting some things together, and this is not going to be the only video that we'll be doing, but we're going to be making sure that we're getting the news out, encouraging people. Hopefully the enthusiasm will come up, that we will make sure that we get to the polls and vote. We want to definitely remind you that it is so important. Registration for voting has already taken place. October the 12th was the last day that you could register to vote for this upcoming November the 8th. Again, November the 8th election. That time has come and passed, but all who are registered to vote, we need to make sure that that takes place. If by chance you know you're not going to be available on November the 8th, you can go to you can early vote. Or they call it absentee voting, and you can go to your county seat or your county courthouse, and you can vote then. Now, we make sure that one of the rules of the new voting bill that is very restrictive, very suppressive for people of color is the Enemy of the State bill. That's House Bill 1878. They have put some things in there that are totally ridiculous, but that's what they've done. And we need to make sure that we've done everything we do. So all those who are going to vote on November the 8th, you have to have a non-expired government issue ID. That's a passport. That's a driver's license. They tell us that you can go to your driver's license agency, and they will give you a non-expired identification card so that you can vote. But again, you can't wait till the last minute. That's something you need to do right away. But if you have a driver's license, non-expired, it has to be non-expired, or a passport, non-expired. If you have those two pieces of documentation, then you will be able to vote. So again, don't wait till the last minute to make sure that you have your proper identification to vote. Get it done now. And again, there are things across the state where you can go in, and that supposedly they're supposed to help you without charge get identification so you can vote. But remember, the enemy of the state was that House Bill 1878 that was passed, signed by Governor Parson, in June on 29th, did not come into effect until August 28th of 2022, which reminds me of August of 1963 was the Voting Rights Act that was passed. It was a voting rights issue that Dr. Martin Luther King spoke out at Washington. When he went to Washington, at the Lincoln Memorial, when he had I Had a Dream speech, that was the day that the bill became effective. That wasn't by accident. They did that on purpose. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. What we have to do now is get out and vote. And what we have to try to do It's tried to close, as I mentioned before, that supermajority in the House of Representatives and on our state Senate. So that's one of the things that we're doing. We're pushing the voter initiative. We're working with the voter initiative to make sure that all our churches have registered voters, that they get out and vote. A letter was sent out to all the churches and other organizations and auxiliaries to make sure that in your locale, in your churches, in whatever civic group you have, make sure those individuals are registered. Well, again, registration is over, but if they're registered, they need to make sure that they vote. It's going to be so important that we do that. We need to do that across the state. We need to do the south part of the state, the middle part of the state, north part, east, west. We need to make sure that the churches of the Missionary Baptist State Convention get out and vote. Now, I know there are members that are not members of the Missionary State Convention. You have the Methodist faith, you have the Pentecostal faith. If you know people who are not members of the Missionary State Baptist Convention, but you know them, again, spread this word. Let them know. Let them know that we need to get those churches and their congregations out to vote on November the 8th. I keep saying November the 8th. So make sure that you do that. So we know everybody's not a Baptist, and that's okay. Praise God. That's all right. But we need to make sure everyone who cares about our democracy, everyone who cares about the state of Missouri and the direction that it's going, we need to make sure that everybody goes in and votes, and that their votes are counted. So that's what needs to happen. Again, this work cannot be done alone. I'm just one of the Indians. I'm just one of the workers that trying to get things done. I'm trying to get things done. So I can't do it alone, obviously. I solicit your prayers, but I also solicit individuals within your churches that have the same goal, same mindset, same desire to make sure that our voices are heard at the ballot box. It is very important that we do that. So again, talk with your pastor, get that letter, and again, I will mention I'll put it in this when we post this video. I'll make sure my information's there so you can contact me. It's so much that we can do. We can do this together. We need to remember, when we don't vote, think about it, my brothers and sisters. When we don't vote, people who do not have our best interests at heart, they get elected. When we don't vote, people who do not have our best interests at heart get elected. So that's why it's so important that you vote. Now, one of the other things, and again, I'm not going to take a lot of your time right now, trying to keep this, condense this down to about 10 minutes. One thing that you can do, if you want to know about your voting regulations in your community, your county, and the precinct and all that, one of the things you can do, you can go to your board of elections. You can go to your board of elections and get the information and make sure it's up to date. Say, hey, I want to make sure that, first of all, I'm registered. I want to make sure that everything's in order for me to vote. And if there's a problem with voting, this is the number you should call. It's called Our Vote. And you see the number there, 1-866 Our Vote, or the number is listed below. Call that number if you're having any problems whatsoever with your vote, with your registration to vote. If you happen to go to the polls and there's some issues, call this number. One of the things they tell you, one of the crazy things in House Bill 1878, they say, well, if you come and you don't have proper ID to vote, we'll give you a ballot that is called a provisional ballot, and you can vote. And then if you can go back and come back and show the register that you have legal ID, will count it. Or in some cases, they may not even count your vote. So you don't want to go to the polls and have to vote with a provisional ballot. When you vote, you want to make sure your vote is counted. When you put it in that machine, you want to look at that number and say, okay, I was number, whatever number that was that you can vote. But if you have any issues at all about voting, this is the number to call. There's people working across the state trying to make sure that every vote that is cast is counted and that you have an opportunity to vote. So again, I'm at my 10-minute time period that I set for myself, but we will be coming back with other videos as we get closer to the time. But remember this, we vote on November the 8th. Number 2, remember, you have to have a government-issued, non-expired ID to vote. Anyone who has relatives or people who live in nursing homes and all those type of things, make sure that you check with the Board of Electors, because there's a little bit of confusion. You're going to have a notary. They have to request the absentee ballot. They're supposed to fill it out, and then they're supposed to sign it. In some cases, they need a notary. In some cases, they don't. So just check with each county. I'm sure it's going to be different, because there's a lot of confusion about this House bill, because they don't know for sure, because again, it was put together. Historically about this bill, it was 8 pages when they started out with it, just to make sure we have voter ID. Now it's up to 53. That's what they eventually passed. And you can call the Secretary of State, J. Ashcroft, and say, hey, send me a bill. I want a copy of that 1878 House bill that passed that has the rules for voting. But let me tell you, trust me, it's the most restrictive, suppressive, and justly unfair for people, especially of color, to vote. So what they're trying to do is make sure that our votes are not cast. So again, I want to thank you. I hope you've listened to this video. If you have, God bless you, and thank you so much. Continue to pray for our effort. Anything that you can do to help people vote on November the 8th or absentee voting, make sure you do that, because our voice does make a difference. Because remember this, we can make the difference if we vote. We can make the difference if we vote. Set you a plan. Get you a plan when you're going to vote, who you're going to the polls with, what time you're going to the polls, and make sure that you get to the polls and vote on November 8th. Thank you so much. God bless you. Continue to pray for our effort. And remember, we need you. We need your vote. Your voice needs to be heard. God bless you and God keep you. We'll be talking with you again real soon. And may the good Lord take a liking to you. Amen. God bless.